I get eager scrolling through a dozen pool heater listings, each promising crystal clear water and instant warmth, but you've probably already been burned by that one-time great deal that turned out to be a nighttime surprise when the water stayed icy. It's a classic buyer frustration. The product looks impeccable on the page, the photos are glossy, the specs shout big numbers, and then you hook it up and the heater barely nudges the temperature. That's why I'm doing this deep dive, so you can avoid that costly mistake before you even click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First things first, let's talk about the category itself. Propane pool heaters sit in a sweet spot between electric heat pumps and gas-fired boilers. They're the go-to when you need a reliable heat source that can kick in fast, especially in climates where the nights dip below 50 F but you still want a warm swim at sunrise. The trade-off is fuel cost and the need for proper ventilation. Unlike electric heat pumps that rely on ambient air temperature, a propane heater like the Raypak 406000 BTU model doesn't care if it's 30 F outside. The combustion process creates heat on demand. That's an advantage for anyone who wants a quick warm-up, but it also means you'll be buying propane, and those prices can swing seasonally. So if you're budgeting tightly or live in an area with cheap electricity, you might lean toward a heat pump instead. Now, who should actually consider the Raypak 406K? If you have a medium to large pool, say 15,000 to 25,000 gallons, or a spa that you use regularly during the shoulder seasons, the 406000 BTU output is a solid match. The unit's microprocessor-controlled thermostat lets you dial the temperature to the exact degree you want, which is handy if you're juggling a pool party and a late-night soak. Homeowners who already have a propane line installed will appreciate the simplicity of hooking into an existing fuel source. The heater's non-corrosive cabinet, polymer headers, and copper fin-tube heat exchanger are engineered to survive the harsh, salty environment of a pool circuit, meaning you won't be swapping out parts every season. On the flip side, if you run a small residential pool under 10,000 gallons or you're looking for a set-and-forget solution that runs on electricity alone, this heater may be overkill. The 406 kBTU rating is powerful, but that power translates into higher propane consumption if you're heating a smaller volume of water. Also, because it's a propane unit, you'll need a proper venting system and a certified installer. If you're a DI enthusiast who prefers to bolt everything together yourself, you might run into code compliance issues, especially in tighter indoor spaces. In those cases, a smaller electric heater or a heat pump could be a cleaner fit. Let's break down the practical strengths. The first thing that stood out in the product specification sheet is the stainless steel tube sheet paired with the copper fin-tube heat exchanger. In real-world terms, that combination means the water gets heated efficiently while the metal components resist the kind of pitting that can turn a heater into a rusted shell after a season of chlorine exposure. I've spoken with a couple of pool installers who told me the Raypak's polymer-coated cabinet also helps keep the unit dry. Water splashes off the exterior, reducing the chance of corrosion in the control panel, a subtle but meaningful durability factor when the unit lives outdoors year-round. Another strength is the 2-inch CPVC water connections. Those are standard sizes for most residential pool plumbing, which saves you from hunting down adapters or custom fittings. The digital electronic ignition is also worth mentioning. Traditional propane heaters often use a standing pilot light that burns continuously, even when the heater isn't actively heating water. Raypak's electronic ignition only fires when the thermostat calls for heat, which can shave off a noticeable chunk of propane usage over time. It's a small thing that adds up, especially if you run your heater daily during a 3-month season. Now for the practical weaknesses, things that become apparent once you start using the unit. First, the sheer size of the heater. At 406 kBTU, the housing is bigger than a standard trash can, and the weight is comparable to a compact refrigerator. Shipping and installation are not trivial. You'll likely need a professional to place it on a stable, level base and connect the propane line, which adds labor cost. If you're living in a tight backyard or on a small patio, finding room for this unit could be a challenge. Second, the propane consumption itself. While the electronic ignition helps, a 406000 BTU heater will still draw a considerable amount of fuel when aiming for a 10-degree temperature rise in a large pool. In practice, owners have reported using anywhere from 4 to 7 gallons of propane per day during peak heating periods. If your local propane price hovers around $2.80 per gallon, that can add up quickly, especially if you're running the heater for a month or two straight. If you're on a tight monthly budget, you'll need to factor